Hello everybody, it's me, it's PokemonTripHD. Welcome back to some more Dragalia Lost content. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing the new 70 mana circle units, the units with the mana spiral. Now, these new units with the mana spiral actually include Xainfried, Nefaria, and Cleo. This is OG Cleo, not Gala Cleo. OG Cleo. Thank God Gala Cleo didn't get a mana spiral. That would be very scary, but OG Cleo. And then, of course, Nefaria and Xainfried. So I'm gonna discuss them in that order: Xainfried, Nefaria, then Cleo. Cleo's kind of the not super important one, so I don't know why I'm discussing her last, but I don't know. Anyways, let's go ahead and discuss Xainfried first of all. Now, Xainfried actually got a very big upgrade from his mana spiral. Now, before his mana spiral, he was really not used at all. Like, there was no case for you to make any use of him at all. But now with his mana spiral, he actually has a couple of things going for him and a lot of things for the future going for him. So first of all, let's go ahead and discuss his skill 1. His skill 1 deals 4 hits of 230% water damage to the target and nearby enemies, and inflicts frostbite for 21 seconds, dealing 41% damage every 3 seconds. I'm not going to say 2.9, with 120% base chance. Frostbitten foes take 4 hits of 300% water damage instead. So the mods are a little bit low when they're not afflicted by frostbite, but once they are, you do actually a really solid, solid 1200% modifier. So yeah, basically what you want to do is obviously get them frostbitten and then attack them with your skill 1 as much as possible. Now, of course, when they are frostbitten as well, they are also taking damage from the frostbite affliction. So this is a very nice skill, very big upgrade actually from just a straight up deals 4 hits of a very low actually modifier water damage. So he got a very big upgrade on this skill 1. Now, Frostbite is, of course, a new affliction. It just got introduced like last week with Valerio and his banner, and Xainfried is, I believe, only like the second unit to get it. Valerio was first, Xainfried was second, and then Mitsuba was third. So those are kind of the orders of how the units got Frostbite. Now, I don't think Frostbite is super duper amazing, like it's the best affliction in the game. I don't think it's the best affliction in the game, honestly. It still has a bit of ways to go to be the best affliction in the game, but it does have a lot of potential to be the best affliction in the game. Now, something he's actually missing, I'm not going to go over the DPS him just yet. I'm going to do that a little bit later. Let me also move my phone so it doesn't distract me. I'm going to go over the DPS him a little bit later, but there's no Frostbite Punisher Wormprint in the game yet, whereas other afflictions do have, and that was Stream Captain, whereas other afflictions do have a Punisher Wormprint. Like Poison has a couple Punisher Wormprints. Burn has Elegant Escort. And are those the only ones? I think those are actually the only ones. Paralysis has Spirit of the Season. There's a lot of Punisher prints for afflictions, but Frostbite does not have that. And that's kind of the main thing weighing down Frostbite. Now, the thing is, there's already a lot of afflictions for water now. They have Freeze, they had Bog, and now they have Frostbite. So they have a lot of afflictions. So they might not want to make a Punisher print for Frostbite, because that would make water actually, incredibly better, especially if you Frostbite and Bog on break or something. If it stacks, I'm not sure if it stacks, but I'm pretty sure it stacks. If you do those both on break, you would have an insane amount of damage. So they might not want that to happen. So that might be the reason they're not releasing a Frostbite Wormprint, like Frostbite Punisher Wormprint. But for now, we're just going to have to wait and see. Maybe they'll release one in the future. We don't really know. So that's a skill 1. Next up is skill 2. Deals 3 hits of 254% water damage to enemies directly ahead, and increases the entire team's strength by 20% for 20 seconds, and raises the dragon gauge by 10% if the attack connects. Now, this is a lot of stuff on this skill, but this skill got a very big upgrade as well. Xainfried honestly got huge upgrades on both of his skills. So his skill 2 went from just 20% for 15 seconds to 20% for 20 seconds. And now he deals damage, and it's not a very good mod of damage, but he does deal damage, which is probably the most important thing. Okay, sorry about that cut. I think I was talking about Guardian's Fury. Basically, he got a very big upgrade from the skill 2. Skill 2 was just 20% for 15 seconds, and now this is 20% for 20 seconds. Raises the Dragon Gauge by 10%, which is actually a very solid amount of Dragon Gauge getting raised. That's like 3 unit skill 1s. And deals 750% damage. So it got a very big upgrade as well. Both of his skills got huge upgrades that are very important for him. And that's the reason his kit is much better than it was before. If he didn't have this extra damage off of skill 2, honestly, it wouldn't be too big of a difference. To be honest, it would probably be better if it was like 25% for 20 seconds or something like that. That'd be really good. But 20% for 20 seconds, just increasing it an extra 5 seconds is actually very important as well. So he got a very huge skill 2 upgrade. But again, this little damage isn't super important, but again, it's just doing some damage, because before you weren't doing any damage, so you're just doing some extra damage, and that's really good. So those are his two skills. Again, huge upgrades off of his skills, very important to his kit. His code ability, of course, didn't change. Dragon's Claws, it's still Dragon's Claws. It just basically increased from 30% in total to now 40% in total. So this is nice for longer fights. You don't really get to take advantage of Dragon's Claws in like a short fight, like even Hybrid Hilda. It's usually not too long of a fight. So you can't really take super good advantage of Dragon's Claws. But it is there, and it's nice for, again, long fights in the future. Again, also Mercurial Gauntlet, you just can't really take advantage of it, which is another big downside to that. But again, in the future, once an Agito is released, and it's actually hard Agito, it's not like Cayenne, if it's actually a hard fight, you can actually take a really good advantage of those Dragon's Claws. Next up is Potent Burn Res. It's basically Burn Res, but you gain strength whenever you're hit by an attack that would have burned you. Again, it's just a little bit nice for HBH. You know, the opening blast has a burn chance, and there's a couple other hits with a burn chance on there, so that is nice. And then Dragon Time is actually not that good, unfortunately. You don't want Dragon Time because you really don't want to stay in Dragon form too long. Unless you have some sort of like high dragon mods, but again, Levi does have high dragon mods. But again, you wouldn't want to stay in Dragon Time too long, especially since you do want to get all his Dragon's Claws up ASAP. So you want to get into your dragon and out of your dragon as soon as possible, so you get back to spamming your skill 2, which charges your dragon gauge. Of course, his skill 2 has a very high SP cost of 8,500. His skill 1 has low 2,500, but his skill 2 is just ridiculously high SP cost, and that really does hurt him a little bit. If it was a lower SP cost, that would be amazing. If it was at 6k, this would be an amazing skill 2, but it's unfortunately at 8.5k, which is very, very, very high. It's a very high cost for a skill 2, so that is a bit unfortunate. So he does have a couple drawbacks. Unlike a bunch of other Mana Spiral units, he has a bunch of drawbacks which do hurt him quite a bit. His Dragon Time and his skill 2 SP costs are really just crutches on him. And he's still waiting for, again, a Frostbite Punisher Wormprint. But he has a good kit, honestly. He has a very solid kit. And his kit works more for long fights rather than for short fights, which we currently have right now for Water to do. So that is a little bit unfortunate. Let's go ahead and take a look where he sits on the DPS sim. As you can see, on the DPS sim, he sits about here. This is, of course, 18k team DPS. Let's hire that up to, like, I don't know. I'll just do, I don't know, off the top of my head, 25k team DPS. That's not crazy high. It's not crazy low. 25k team DPS, as you can see, doesn't even really go up that much. Because, again, his skill 2 SP cost is so high, you're not even going to get it off that often throughout the course of a match. You'll probably get it off like 3, maybe 4 times over the course of an HBH match. So you really won't even get it off that often. Honestly, I would say like 3 times would be generous, So honestly, those are the things that really hurt Xainfried. His skill 2's high SP cost and his Dragon Time. But of course, he in a longer fight like Agito, which is bound to be released eventually, it might even be the next one. Flame Agito might be the next one, since they gave Xainfried a mana spiral, which wouldn't make much sense unless they plan on releasing that. But they're also giving wind units mana spiral next, so it could be Water Agito, not Flame Agito. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But Xainfried is solid. He is actually good now. I wouldn't really say he's better than Ellie. I would still use Ellie over him. Look how high Ellie's DPS is with the team buffing. And of course, Gala Ellie over both of them. But I don't know. Like I said, he's good now. He's useful. He's definitely better than Fjorm, but I would not say he's better than Ellie, simply because Ellie has that insane team buffing potential. Now, if they give Ellie a mana spiral, she would just absolutely go through the roof and just beat everybody in water, of course, because look how high she is without any mana spirals yet. So that's probably the reason they haven't gave her one just yet. Again, Xainfried is very solid. There's a couple things that would make him better in the future. Again, if there's a Frostbite Punisher Wormprint, that would, of course, make a lot of people in water better, but specifically Xainfried, since he can inflict Frostbite from himself. And as you can see on the optional Wormprints, he has Jewels of the Sun, and that would easily get replaced for a Frostbite Punisher Wormprint. Also, if they release Agito for Flame next and they actually make an attack speed weapon, now I don't know if they're going to keep releasing attack speed weapons or attack strength weapons or something. They might release a third one, like a 4-strike, I don't know, a 4-strike weapon or something. I don't know. They might release some crazy thing for Agito next. Who really knows, unless they just go back to, again, attack speed or attack damage. If they release an attack speed weapon for the next Agito, Xainfried can actually take really good advantage of that, because, again, his skill 2 is at such a high SP cost. If he can attack faster, he can get the skill 2 off faster, which means he can get more Dragon Gauge faster, more team buff faster, and, of course, just a little bit of damage faster as well. So I feel like an Agito weapon would help Xainfried the most. An attack speed Agito weapon will help Xainfried the most compared to these other water units. That's not the water units. These other water units. Again, Ellie can also take really good advantage. It's really just for buffers. Buffers would take very strong advantage of that, but specifically Xainfried, simply because his skill 2 is so like vital to his kit. If this is on a skill 1, he would be broken. But it's on a skill 2, and it's a very high SP cost, which is why the Augito would help him a lot. And yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on Xainfried. Again, he's good. He's not the best Water Lance, though. You know, Ellie has him beat still, but he is very good, and I want to see his usefulness in a long drawn-out battle, like, say, Volk, but for Flame. I would really like to see his usefulness in there, but unfortunately, we're just waiting for the next Augito to come out. So in the meanwhile, we'll just have to say Xainfried is at the, out of a 10, what would I rate him? I'd probably rate him like a 7. 7 might be a little generous, but I'll just give him a 7 for now, because he is solid, his kit is solid, he has a lot of potential for the future, with, potential units or potential Worm Prints to come out, potential, battles to come out, etc. Lots of potential. That's my thoughts on Xainfried. Next up, let's talk about Nefaria, the waifu with the thaifu. I don't know what thaifu even means. The waifu with the thighs. Anyways, what Nefaria brings to the table is a lot. Now, her original skill 3 deals 8 hits of 106% shadow damage to the target and nearby enemies. Against blinded foes, deals 8 hits of 184% shadow damage instead. So this is a pretty big buff against shadow enemies. But again, or not shadow enemies, against blinded enemies. But again, blind is not an amazing affliction, honestly. Again, units usually have some sort of blind resistance anyways, so you don't really get your full usefulness out of blindness. However, with her level 4, with her mana spile, deals normal, but it also inflicts poison now, dealing damage with poison. It already deals damage with poison, with 70% base chance, which is not amazing, but again, her abilities does boost that up. Against blinded or poison foes, so you just need one or the either. It doesn't need to be both. One or the either deals 8 hits of 184%, which is again much better since poison is so much easier to inflict than blindness. So that is amazing for it to have. This is a very nice skill just because of that additional poison. Again, you're dealing more damage just off the poison, and then when you attack a poison foe, you're doing a bunch of damage. Now, it's only for 15 seconds, but that's honestly okay. You just need you're going to get your skill off pretty fast. Again, it's a low SP cost. You're going to get it off fast anyways. Next up, let's talk about Twilight Oblivion. Activates Twilight Arrows. The user's next Force Strike will deal 19 hits of 37% shadow damage per hit and 2 hits of 53 deals damage, and provide 2400 SP, which is again a lot of SP. You pretty much get this skill ready right off the bat, which is pretty funny. There's actually a nice combo where you use this skill and then you skill 1, and then after your skill 1's done, you actually get your skill 1 up again, which is pretty funny because again the bow skill haste co-ability, so that's pretty funny. Inflicts blindness. This is how you inflict blindness. But it's a chance to miss on attacks for 8 seconds with 110 base chance. Again, that base chance goes up with her abilities. And dispel one enemy buff. Now, dispelling the buff is pretty important, especially for Cayenne, since he does actually have a buff that you need to dispel, which only Nefaria and Cleo can actually do that right now. There are Flaminus that can do it, but for Shadow, it's just Nefaria and Cleo, which I'll go over Cleo next. So this is where she inflicts blindness off of her kit, and this is where she inflicts poison off of her kit. Now, the main thing on her kit is you want to have one of those afflictions up so that you can get this bonus damage off of your skill 1. Now, your skill 1 deals multiple hits, and you poison off of the first hit. So you don't even need it uptime, 100%, because after your first hit, you're going to poison, and then the other 7 hits will deal the extra damage. I believe that's the case. Quote me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is the case. So she's a very strong unit just with these 2 skills. Now, her skill 2 is not amazing, but the dispelling buff and the inflicting blindness is what makes this skill good, honestly. You don't really spam it too much, though, to be honest. You just, you would use this, and then you skill 1, and then, you fire that off, and then you skill 1 again right off the bat, which is pretty nice. Probably the biggest thing that it has is the Dispel, though. The Dispel is super important for Cayenne. Again, she is actually one of the best shadow units for Cayenne, which I'll go over the DPS sim in a minute. Again, Skill Ace co-ability is very nice to have. Full HP equals blindness. Of course, this is what it was before, but now increases the chance of inflicting poison and blindness by 60%. So this is for both poison and blindness, not just blindness. Poison and blindness, which is nice. Again, I'm not a huge fan of her having paralysis. I wish they just improved upon her kit, but I'm going to make a whole separate video discussing that, so don't even worry about that. So that's her first ability, and her next ability, Potent Paralysis Resistance. Again, just like Xainfried, if you were going to hit by an attack that would paralyze you, your strength will increase instead. And then next up, she used to just have Blinded Punisher 30%, but now she has Poison Punisher 30% and Blinded Punisher 40%. in the same ability, and they can stack. It says and, not or. It's and. So if you have both blind and poison up on the enemy, you're getting an extra 30% from poison and an extra 40% from blinded. So you have an insane chance for modifiers off of this. And again, you have a really good chance to inflict those status conditions or those afflictions because of her ability. So she has amazing abilities. They're so strong compared to what they were before even. They're so strong, and she's easily one of the best shadow units in the game right now. Let's over here go to the shadow DPS sim and see how good she is. She's actually, you can probably see her just when I remove water. You can actually not see her because I made the team DPS super high. Psych. Here we go. You can actually see her right here. She is ridiculously strong. Now, of course, she's getting beat by these units because they're all buffers. But of course, Cleo would be on top anyways. But if I lower the team DPS back down to like 18,000, where it's not just full-on team buffers at the top. Of course, Delphi's still at the top, which is actually very surprising, but Nefaria is up here. Now, it still shows high dragon tier 2s for all these units, which I don't know why. It should have the Augito weapon up, because I believe the Augito weapon with attack speed is probably the best Augito weapon in the game right now, and it really makes all these units like their kits are so much better with that on, especially these buffers like Botan and Padia. So, and even, I want to say Delphi. I was going to say Delphi, but no, not Delphi, because Delphi skills charge by themselves. So, Nefaria was over here. Now, the thing with Nefaria is, there are so many ways you can run this Nefaria that I don't even know what the optimal way is. Now, the sim says Resounding Rendition, Fires of Hate, but you could run Forced Bonds, Fire of Hate. You can run Forced Bonds, Dear Diaries. You can run Dear Diaries, Fires of Hate, which actually I think might be the best one, Dear Diaries, Fires of Hate. You can run Shinobi or Fatalis, because again, she has a Force Strike, which deals extra damage, so you might want to run Fatalis for that. Again, you definitely want to run the Augito weapon, though, like not the tier 2, because that wastes too much time. And yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can run Nefaria. Again, Fires of Hate or Plaguebringer, either one will work. Because you're not going to be at full HP too often unless you're Mercurial Gauntlet with a healer or something like that. So there's a lot of different ways you can run Nefaria. But all in all, I just want to show off that she is super strong. She is better than Valentine's Addis, which is super surprising, but she is better than Valentine's Addis, which just goes to show how strong she really is. If you could be better than Valentine's Addis, who again just came out, and he's very, very good. That just goes to show how good Nefaria is. Nefaria is absolutely insane, and she doesn't need to be on low HP, whereas Addis does. You see how low his lowest is. If he's not at max HP, he's probably going to have DPS around like the middle part over here. Whereas Nefaria, even if you're playing her bad, she's obviously not going to be that low unless you're playing absolutely terrible. She's probably going to be, again, like around over here, which is, again, it's not amazing, but it's still good. It's still good. But anyways, we're looking at their optimal play right now. So optimal play, she's very good. Again, if you add the Augito weapon on this, and DPS is going to fly even higher, because again, you get your skill 1 off even quicker. And yeah, that's Nefaria. She's amazing. She's the best shadow unit that's straight up DPS right now. Of course, you're talking about buffing and stuff, Cleo and Delphi, and there's other units as well. But Nefaria is actually the main carry for Cayenne right now. Cayenne, the new Augito boss, she's actually the main carry. You really want to run a Nefaria for Dispel and for DPS, and then like 2 Gala Cleos, and then like a flex spot. That's probably one of the best teams. If not that team, like a Nefaria, a Gleo, a Yasu, Latna, something like that. There's a lot of different team comps that can work. 4 DPS works. You can run a Cleo as a healer, which would also work on your team. There's a lot of different comps that work, but Nefaria is probably a staple in all those teams. You can run Delphi as well, but again, that might be using too much poison and use up all those poison stacks pretty quickly. But Nefaria is, again, like I said, just an amazing unit to have for Cayenne, and definitely one of the best shadow units. Probably the biggest upgrade we've seen with Mana Spirals. It's either going to be her or Ezla, to be honest. One of those two. The biggest update for Mana Spirals so far. So that's Nefaria. Next up, let's go ahead and discuss Cleo. Now, I'm not going to talk about Cleo too much, simply because she's a healer. She is used in Cayenne, but she's not used too much. Basically her skill 1 just has more recovery potency, which is again good for healers. You heal more, I guess. You heal more damage. Her skill 2 got actually a pretty big buff. Now it increases defense just like that, but it also gradually recovers HP, which is again the best type of healing skill. Gradually recovering HP is the best type, and plus you heal more health over the course of time. And again, it's a very low SP cost compared to other gradually healing skills off of a skill 2. So very low SP cost. And next up, recovery potency as her ability, just kind of normal. Skill prep is now 100%, which is very nice for her to have. And using Elder Cure, which is again her skill 1, grants the user the Dispel Strike effect. When this effect is active, the user's next Force Strike will dispel one enemy buff. This effect cannot stack and will be consumed on use. So you will actually dispel a buff with her 4-strike after you use your skill 1 to heal. So this is, again, another slot that she has that's actually very useful. You can heal, and then you get rid of dispel, you get rid of the Cayenne's buff, which is, again, another big part of why she's really used in Cayenne. Is why you use her, again, for safer runs. That's probably why you use Cleo and Cayenne. You use her for safer runs. That's the main idea. So again, her skill, her ability, actually goes into that. Again, you get rid of the defense. Not a defense buff. It's like a shield that he gives. You can dispel that shield just by 4-striking, because if you attack the shield, you will actually take damage. So that's why Nefaria and Cleo are super important to have on your team, at least one of them, to dispel that shield. Next up, Potent Perez. Again, I've already talked about it. Again, solid. Not amazing, but solid. And then finally, HP 70 equals defense up. So again, this is a big upgrade that I got. 7% extra is solid. You're definitely going to have a lot more survivability with this than you did before. So yeah, that's Cleo. Again, she got a very big upgrade. And honestly, would I use her over Summer Verica? I don't know. To be honest, I might use her over Summer Verica simply because she has her heals on a very low SP cost. Plus, the defense buff is 15 seconds, which is a very long time. And again, she has low SP cost. So I could actually see, a case being made for her to be used. Again, she also has this, which means she's definitely going to survive. I can definitely see her being used over Summer Verica, and I wouldn't even be mad because she's very solid now. However, Summer Verica is, again, a very nice alternative. They're both kind of like side grades to each other. I don't really know which one is better, but they're both very, very good and good at what they do, obviously healing. Of course, Cleo is Perez, whereas Verica is Blind Res. So simply for that reason, you would want to use Cleo in High Jupiter rather than Summer Verica. But again, you don't even want to use a healer in High Jupiter because you just 4 DPS run it anyways. So they don't really have a use in High Jupiter. Again, Mercure Gauntlet, you don't even need a healer. And then Cayenne, you don't even need a healer either. So poor healers for Shadow are just not really used. Also, the Heinwald is a healer as well, but he's more of like a DPS healer, so I'm not even going to mention him as a competition. So yeah, that's Cleo. I do think she got a very nice upgrade, very needed. Again, the only problem is you need a lot of investment to get her up here. The Mana Spiral obviously is a lot of investment. So for that reason alone, I really wouldn't invest into my Cleo. And I'd rather just keep using my Summer Verica just because the Mana Spiral is very expensive to get her through. So those are my thoughts. Again, I do think Nefaria is amazing, one of the best units in the game right now. And Xainfried is a lot better, but again, he's going to be better in the future, I feel like, than right now. I feel like they're kind of setting him up for the future, for the potential Augitail weapon and potential Frostbite, Punisher, Wormprint. So those are my thoughts on everything. Let me know your thoughts on these units in the comments down below. Are you happy with them? Are you not happy with them? That's everything I have to say. Have a great day, and until next time, have a nice trip.